So, in this last section of factoring, we're going to learn probably the hardest one. It's still a trinomial, but what you'll notice is that the first term on x squared is not a 1. So, that's actually what makes this the hardest. And there's several different ways to do factoring. You can use guess and check, but the AC method, if you perform it correctly, you'll only have to do it one time, and there's no guess and check. Try this, see if it works. So, a little bit of background. When you have a polynomial, this is in the form ax squared plus a b coefficient of x, and then plus your number is c. So, we call it the AC method because we're really going to be concerned with a and C. And notice that negative needs to go with the 15. So the AC method basically says you can draw an X and you take A times C. So 6 times negative 15 is negative 90. Okay? X squared. So I like to put the letter with it so I don't forget about it. Now, what we're really trying to do is we have to come up with in our head two factors of negative 90x squared that when I multiply gives me negative 90, but when I add them together gives me the b term, which our b is 1x, because that's what's in the middle. Okay? So you can already tell I've got the factors 10 and 9. And now since I want to multiply to get that x squared, we always just split it up. So if I take 10x times negative 9x, we get negative 90x squared. And if I add them together, we get the 1x, okay? So what we're really going to do is we're going to use those two factors that we just came up with to just rewrite this middle term. So I'm going to leave the 6x squared alone. And then you can always do these in either order. I just put whatever's on the left first and whatever I picked on the right to be on the right, okay? So take a moment and look. What we really did was we didn't change this problem, I just rewrote it, okay? Now, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. So if you remember back to last week, when you have 4 terms, that's when we did grouping, okay? So I'm going to group these two together. And like I said, if I would have put the 9 first, this would not change the outcome. It would just change part of the work, but our answer would still be equivalent. So what do they have in common? Well, I can factor out a 2 and an x. So I would be left with 3x plus 5. Now, on my second term, this is what confused a lot of students. I know I want to get what's left in the parentheses. So if this has a negative 9, that means I need to factor out a negative 3. So if I divide both of those by negative 3, I get positive 3x, and negative 15 divided by negative 3 is positive 5. So remember, your parentheses are supposed to be the same, but don't force it because that's how you double check. And then our last step said the outside terms go together in a group and the inside terms stay together in a group. Okay? So when you do a trinomial that doesn't have the first coefficient as 1, you actually do the AC method, you rewrite it to do grouping, and you factor it by grouping. And that's it.